Hello everyone. Today we will discuss another topic under environmental studies and environmental laws. Today's topic is Stockholm Declaration on Human Environment. This is the considered as the Magna Carta of the environmental legislation. The list of topics to be covered here is introduction, object of conference, conflicting approaches, highlights of the conference, proclamations of the declaration and principles of the declaration. The Stockholm Declaration on Human Environment, resulting from the United Nations Conference on Human Environment in 1972. The UN Conference on Human Environment marked a watershed in international relations as it placed the issue of protection of biosphere on the official agenda of international policy and law. The conference witnessed participation of almost 114 nations across the world. The main object of the Conference on Human Environment, which held at the Stockholm in 1972, was to consider the need for a common outlook and for common principles to inspire and guide the peoples of the world in the preservation and enhancement of the human environment. The initial stages of the conference saw the emergence of two conflicting approaches. The first approach insisted that the primary concern of the conference should be regarding the human impact on the environment, with emphasis on control of pollution and conservation of natural resources, whereas the second approach laid emphasis on social and economic development as the real issue. The two approaches seemingly are opposite and were bridged by the evolution of a concept that environment protection was an essential element of social and economic development. Environment protection and development were conceptualized as two sides of a coin inseparable from each other. The conference was a remarkable achievement as 114 nations participated in it across the world, and they agreed generally on declaration of principles and an action plan. These principles are contained in Stockholm Declaration, which demonstrates that the world has just one environment. Some of the major issues which were considered in the conference were the protection and improvement of human environment. It says that wisely use of man's capability would lead to quality of life. Developing countries were facing more problems of the environment as compared to the developed nation because of the reason that they are underdeveloped. The Stockholm Declaration on Human Environment proclaimed that man is both creator and molder of his environment, which gives him physical sustenance and affords him the opportunity of intellectual, moral, social, and spiritual growth. There are seven proclamations were made during the conference, which were added in the Stockholm Declaration. The protection and improvement of human environment is a major issue which affects the well-being of peoples and economic development throughout the world. In time, man's capability to transform his surroundings, if used wisely, can bring to all peoples the benefit of development and the opportunity to enhance the quality of life. Wrongly or heedlessly applied, the same power can do incalculable harm to human beings and human environment. In the developing countries, most of the environment problems are caused by underdevelopment. Therefore, the developing countries must direct their efforts to development, bearing in mind their priorities and the need to safeguard and improve the environment. The natural growth of population continuously presents problems for the preservation of the environment, and adequate policies and measures should be adopted as appropriate to face these problems. A point has been reached in history when we must shape our actions throughout the world with a more prudent care for their environment consequences. To defend and improve the environment for the present and future generation has become an imperative goal for the mankind. A goal to be pursued together with and in harmony with the established and fundamental goals of peace and of worldwide economic and social development. To achieve this environment goal, the conference called upon the governments and the peoples of the world to exert common efforts for the preservation and improvement of human environment for the benefit of all the people and for their posterity at every level. There are 26 principles which were formulated as goals to be pursued together with all nations for worldwide economic and social development. Some of the important principles of the Stockholm Declarations are: right to protect environment. Man has the fundamental right to freedom, equality, and adequate conditions of life in an environment of a quality that permits a life of dignity and well being, and the man bears a solemn responsibility to protect and improve the environment for the present and future generation. Management of natural resources. The natural resources of the earth, including the air, water, land, flora, and fauna, and especially representative samples of natural ecosystems, must be safeguarded for the benefit of present and future generations through careful planning or management as appropriate. Here, both natural resources and man-made resources is required to be managed as per the use of the present and future generation. Conservation of wildlife. Man has a special responsibility to safeguard and wisely manage the heritage of wildlife and its habitat, which are now gravely imperiled by a combination of adverse factors. Nature conservation includes wildlife must therefore receive importance in planning for economic development. The capacity of the earth to produce vital renewable resources must be maintained and wherever practicable be restored. The non-renewable resources of the earth must be employed in such a way as to guard against the danger of their future exhaustion and to ensure that benefits from such employment are shared by all mankind. States shall take all possible steps to prevent pollution of the seas by substances that are liable to create hazards to human health, to harm living resources and marine life, to damage amenities, or to interfere with other legitimate uses of the seas. Economic and social development is essential for ensuring a favorable living and working environment for man and for creating conditions on earth that are necessary for the improvement of the quality of life. Demographic policies should be applied where the rate of population growth or excessive population concentrations are likely to have adverse effect on the environment or development. In order to achieve a more rational management of resources and thus to improve the environment, states should adopt an integrated and coordinated approach to their development planning and to ensure that development is compatible with the need to protect and improve the human environment. For the developing countries, stability of prices and adequate earnings for primary commodities and raw materials are essential to environmental management, since economic factors as well as ecological processes must be taken into account. States shall take all possible steps to prevent pollution of the seas by substances that are liable to create hazards to human health, to harm living resources and marine life, to damage amenities and to interfere with other legitimate uses of the sea. Science and technology must be applied to the identification and avoidance and control of the environmental risk and the solution of environmental problems and for the common good of mankind. Resource should be made available to the preserve and improve the environment, taking into account the requirements of developing countries. Any cost which may emanate from their incorporating environmental safeguards into their development planning and the need for making available to them additional international technical and financial assistance for this purpose. Man and his environment must be spared the effects of nuclear weapons and all other means of mass destruction. States must strive to reach prompt agreement in the relevant international organs on the elimination and complete destruction of such weapons. International matters concerning the protection and improvement of the environment should be handled in a cooperative spirit by all the countries, whether big or small, on an equal footing. Cooperation through multilateral or bilateral arrangements or other appropriate means is essential to effectively control, prevent, reduce, and eliminate adverse environmental effects resulting from the activities conducted in all spheres in such a way that due account is taken of the sovereignty and interest of all states. International matters concerning the protection and improvement of the environment should be handled in a cooperative spirit